I thought this was a great video from Melania Trump. She hasn't done all that much on social media that I've seen. How are you tonight, John?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I was kind of inspired by her stepping out, getting in front of the camera, and saying what not a lot of people have had the courage to say. And I don't know. Do you want to play it so everybody knows what we're talking about? There might be people watching go, what are these guys talking about? And have no idea the frame of reference for this show. So maybe you can cue up Melania and we'll listen to what she had to say. I think she posted it on Twitter, and I'm sure she posted it on Truth Social.
It's good that Trump is back on Twitter. People can follow us on Twitter. It's, well, X. So yeah, Melania Trump had this really good video. She's very photogenic, obviously, professional supermodel and all that. I think Barron Trump is probably more like her. He's sort of soft-spoken, right? Let's hear what she has to say.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
Pretty dramatic, right? I like the music.
There's more to the story. We need to uncover the truth. And she said that the silence is deafening. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but nobody's talking about this. It's out of the media. Nobody's seems to be investigating it. I mean, we saw that group of guys on the Dan Bongino show a couple weeks ago, and then they met at the Heritage Foundation, but I don't know that we've heard a whole lot since then. So I wanted to explore, what is it that Melania might be referring to? What evidence is there to support what it is that she's suggesting? You know, is this more complicated than a 20-year-old kid on the roof tried to kill the former president? Is there more to the story than that? And so we have sort of put together a bunch of content to look at, is there evidence to support what Melania is suggesting, that there's more to the story? And if so, why does nobody want to seem to investigate it other than you and me? You know, and a guy who's real good at fixing showers. Right? I mean, it's like you know, there's three of us on the planet who are looking into this, and one of the guys is a plumber. So I think it's important that we take a closer look at this evidence and see if we can sort of make the case to support Melania. You know, I'm a big fan of Melania's. I'm a big fan of Ivanka's. And if we can help support her learning more and the people around her that are supporting her learning more, I think that's a good thing to do. So that's what tonight's show is about, is there something to support what Melania is talking about here? So
and you know, John,
I sent
for
you a
me,
bunch of content.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, I share your feelings and I support the president and the former president, the first lady. But really for me, I'm feeling like, you know, we're living in a world right now where you go to court and they lie, they deny your rights, you try to report a crime to the cops and they ticket you and threaten you and throttle you and push you down the stairs. And it's got to fucking stop. So they thought they could kill Trump.
Yeah.
I want these people to go to jail, John. I hope Melania Trump is watching Crowdsource the Truth and your channel. And I'm happy to share any information that we develop. But this is such a serious thing. I don't know if we've ever had anything like this before. Even the JFK assassination, when JFK was killed, nobody had the ability to do the types of things that we can do today in terms of sharing this information, crowdsourcing, and gathering information from around the country. So it really, there's a change happening now.
Quite frankly, I think the tipping point was the Vegas shooting, because we had so much footage from so many eyewitnesses, and then we were able to synchronize it with the body cam footage. And, you know, that was sort of the beginning of this whole, you know, megasync, gigasync concept, was we had all the handheld stuff from people running around, And then we got body cam footage like 6 months later or something like that. And we had to resynchronize everything based on the body cams and the audio and the, lining up the shots and all that kind of stuff. So this isn't our first rodeo. And yet I kind of feel like that was a tipping point in the whole realm of crowdsourcing, in that there were hundreds, if not thousands of people trying to pull evidence together, sharing evidence on YouTube.
But
right?
wait, yeah, that's it right there. You just hit it right there. Because on 9/11, nobody had cell phones with video cameras in them. That was sort of like the first mass hysteria, casualty kind of event where everybody not only had a cell phone, they're at a concert. So the cell phone is already out recording for lots of people. And there was just so much evidence there.
It really was game changing. It was a real shift. And the fact that people were posting it onto YouTube and posting it on Facebook and posting it on Twitter and sharing this content for everybody else to look at. And one of the things that was sort of interesting was people were filming things, had no idea if they filmed anything important, but they posted it. And then other people would look at it and go, hey, wait a second, go to 1 minute and 12 seconds and look at what you see. And it's like, whoa. So people were filming meaningful content that they didn't know. Same thing happened at this Trump assassination attempt. There were people in the audience filming that had no idea that what they captured was pivotal, right? They have no idea. They're just holding their cameras up, like Mia Copps holds her camera up. Great footage, sharp footage, holds her camera pretty steady, right? And gets meaningful content, right? She's got these, the snipers on the roof moving, right? And it's pretty sharp. So we've got different people capturing different aspects of the crime, so to speak. And at the time, they don't realize they're capturing really meaningful stuff. And then when they post it, hundreds or thousands of us get to analyze it. This is game changing. This is why the intelligence community tried to put you out of business before the Vegas shooting. Before the for 7 years. So before the Vegas shooting, they had already infiltrated your home
with George
and attempted to put you out of business. They attempted to put you in jail. They tried to Ross Ulbricht.
That was the first thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So they tried to Ross Ulbricht you. That was the play. Was let's get all these guys locked up. Let's lock up Snowden, lock up Assange, lock up Ross Ulbricht, lock up Jason Goodman. I think Tim Pool got swatted.
Tim Pool, all these guys. Well, then they got Tim Pool now with that tenant media thing. One thing I just want to say about what you were bringing up about all this footage, John, if people do have footage, I've added a new capability to crowdsourcethetruth.org. When you go there now, if you'd like to upload a high-resolution photo from your phone or video, the first thing you'll see is this file upload portal. You don't need to sign up. It doesn't cost anything. Just click on upload a file, and it was broken yesterday, but I fixed it now. And you can upload files up to 1 gigabyte, as many as 10 1 gigabyte files. If you have something larger than 1 gigabyte, just send me an email on truth@crowdsourcethetruth.org, and we can make arrangements to get the larger file. But this is working now, so if people want to share any evidence, any files, John and I will be able to look at them, and this can be the stuff that comes right off the phone.
And this is big. So for folks that have been sharing video clips with me in DM and Twitter and stuff like that, it's, we then have to try and download them. This is great. If you guys can just send the content right here, then we've got a repository, right? So we've got one place to go with all the content coming from eyewitnesses, and that's really meaningful. So if you guys have stuff that you want us to see, this is the place to post it. So this is a big deal. Thank you for setting that up, Jason.
Yeah, no problem.
That's huge.
It's tricky. I'm not that good at making websites.
Yeah, no. This is a pain in the neck, even with Wix or Square or whatever that stuff is.
This is GoDaddy.
There you go. All right, why don't we take a look at some of the stuff I prepared for the YouTube audience, and then when we get over to the patron-only portion of the show, we're going to be watching some interesting video clips. Last night we did a special show about what appears to be a drone flying around. I mean, we knew from Chuck Grassley that there was a counter-UAS drone person on the communication sheet. Jason figures out how to unredact that. So we've got the unredacted version, and then calls the drone pilot. And so our patrons got to hear that phone call last night. And again, we're just getting closer and closer to who were the people behind the scenes. Who were the people? Who's the guy in charge of flying the drone? Well, we know his name because Jason got the unredacted stuff. And then the fact that Jason calls the guy, and the fact that we know where he's based and that he's nowhere near Butler, Pennsylvania. It's like, if you're not a patron, you don't know this guy's name. You don't know that he's from Las Vegas, Nevada. Right? So you don't know these things if you're not a patron. That's a shame. So why don't we show people on YouTube the stuff that we can show on YouTube, and then the patrons tonight are going to get to hear from Luckey Palmer. Is it Luckey Palmer? What's his name? Luckey. What's his name? Luckey.
Palmer.
Is it Luckey Palmer? Palmer Luckey. I have a mental thing between him.
I'm with you.
And Chili Palmer. Chili Palmer. Get Shorty from Get Shorty.
Yes.
So I got Chili Palmer and Palmer Luckey. It's a Luckey Palmer, Palmer Luckey, Chili Palmer.
But it's his sister that caused me to remember it, because Matt Gaetz is married to Ginger Luckey. He's Luckey Palmer's Palmer Luckey's brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law.
Kind of crazy,
so
right?
Matt Gaetz's brother. Well, tonight with the patrons, we've got a little, like a 5-minute snippet that we're going to look at with the patrons. You and I are going to do like a viewing party. So get your popcorn ready for the patron-only hour. We got a 5-minute thing from the Wall Street Journal talking about, is his company, Andero, literally the game changer in aerospace and defense right now. And this documentary looks at how there's been a consolidation. Remember, we talked about the consolidation in the beef industry and how the beef is now down to like 4 major packers in the whole country. Same thing in the aerospace and defense. And what we're going to watch tonight is this little 5-minute clip from Wall Street Journal talking about how the aerospace and defense industry went from many, many companies to 5. And that Andero and Luckey Palmer Luckey, is really kind of challenging the guys who make the big expensive stuff, the MQ-9 Reapers, $30 million a pop. He's got this different approach, and we're going to get to meet some of the other people at the company. We're going to get to hear from him. We're going to get to hear from the chief strategy guys. Really, it's a fascinating company, and I think it's still private, and they may go public. And so I think it's something that the patrons are really going to be fascinated by, talking about how Andero is potentially challenging Lockheed.
Wow.
Challenging Northrop Grumman. Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating. And I think it's, it's something that it's worth looking at, particularly after last night's show. So we've got that queued up.
Before you move off of that, did you see any of him talking about where the name came from? Do you know where that name Andero comes from?
I think he talks about it in the Wall Street Journal thing. I think he does talk about that. So the patrons are going to get to hear that when we cut to that piece. Yeah, well, he's an interesting guy. Again,
he is.
He's the guy who made the Oculus 3D goggles that Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, bought his company, this Luckey Palmer's company with the cockamamie goggles, bought for $2 billion. So Palmer Luckey goes from nerdy geek guy to billionaire in a fairly short period of time.
He refused the first offer of $1 billion. He said, nah.
I think it was 1 or 1.2, and he said, get out of here. We're bigger than that. They gave him $2 billion, and then they fired him like 6 or 9 months after the merger. They got rid of him, and they said, get out of here. We don't want you here anymore. So and that's when he started Andero. And this is a very interesting play. I think the patrons are going to enjoy this tonight. Why don't we look at what we've got in this folder I sent you? Let's go to the images, and we'll just go through them one at a time. So this is sort of the working infographic that sort of supports what Melania is talking about. When we started looking at all this stuff, in the first week, I published something that says, it looks like we've got a second shooter. And it was based on video evidence of what looked like kinetic stuff happening down the back row of the bleachers, meaning people were flinching, stuff was moving, people were falling, smoke was puffing, All kinds of things were happening. And at the same time, the snipers up on the rooftop were flinching and jumping backwards. And it was all at the first shot. And it's like, ding, 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 ding. It's like a breadcrumb trail. It's like, wait a second. 2 points make a line. We had like 5 or 6 points in a line. Bing, 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 bing. It's like, well, that's definitely a line. If I only need 2 points and I've got 6 of them.
Oh, wait a minute. I just thought of something, John, because I'm just looking at this diagram and it just remains so strong in terms of its evidentiary value. And we were talking last week or a few weeks ago with Donna Hutz about how she witnessed the woman get shot in the hand, and we haven't heard anything about that in the news or from the woman herself. But I just realized the reason why we haven't heard anything about them, because if they admit that they were injured, it's going to start people looking at the fact that everybody standing in a line here was injured. So they're just hiding it to hide the fact that the shots came from the direction that you've diagrammed right here.
I believe the woman that was hit in the hand, and again, I could be wrong, was over by Corey Comparatori. And Donna said that she was sitting in the 4th set of bleachers. And so there was a little bit of confusion there as to, well, you know, was she in Corey Comparatori? So Corey Comparatori was shot and killed. But a lot of people thought
they were over here.
They were by Copenhagen. So a lot of people thought Copenhagen was killed.
Right.
And I think Donna thought that Copenhagen was shot and killed because they carried him out of there like a sack of potatoes, right? I mean, they carried him out like as they carried Corey out, like dead man's carry. I mean, that was not a fireman's carry, right? You know the fireman's carry? You put your hand on the other guy's shoulder and you hold you grab wrists, and then you can make like a chair with somebody. You got to learn the fireman's carry, bro. So the fireman's carry is how you're supposed to like carry somebody out of there. And they just like grabbed his ankles and grabbed his wrists. It's like, that's not how you're supposed to do it. It's like, that's a mess. But Copenhagen, a lot of people thought Copenhagen was shot and killed. In fact, there was a guy like in Germany or something that was doing some analysis, not Hendrik, another guy in Germany, doing some 3D analysis stuff in Blender or SketchUp. He thought the guy in white was shot. He was doing angles on the guy in white. Yeah, that's another kind of carry. The fireman, there's like a 2-man fireman's carry, 2-man fireman carry. And they make like a chair. You put one hand on the other guy's shoulder and then you cross hands underneath. So there you go. That's it. Show that. Everybody knows how to do that. Make sure you show that. This is how you're supposed to do it. You don't have one guy grab the ankles and the other guy grab the wrists, and you know, that's not how you do it. Well, that's football. That's how you get the guy off the field of football.
I think we're getting into Kama Sutra here. We're off the beaten path.
Almost, but that's okay. We do show on that. All right, let's go back to the images that we have. So we're talking about this infographic, and so the notion here to support Melania is that we saw this kinetic event down the back row, right? I published the video. Brett Weinstein sees it in the first week and says, "Dude, you got to come on the show. We got to talk about this." All right, so he says, "Damn, you know, you got a kinetic event moving down this row. It's kind of indisputable." And the snipers are jumping backwards. And if you remember, I think the first show we did, I kind of put my neck out there and I said, I think these guys are taking fire. I don't think they're shooting at anybody. I said, I think they're taking fire. Well, then we get to hear from Fieldcraft Survival Tactical. Greg Lappin tells us they're taking fire. They thought they were taking fire.
He's told by one of them firsthand, he said. That's what he said.
So this corroborates the ballistic. So in other words, the ballistic evidence started at the corner with the puff of smoke. Then we notice the guy in white falls down. Then we notice the lady, something happens with her arm. Then we notice that Copenhagen flinches as well. We thought he got hit, but it was him flinching. So we see all these people responding to this whole big flinch. And then I'm like, well, where the hell could that have come from? The white tent? Let's go back to that infographic. So where could that shot have come from that goes all the way down the aisle? So when I start looking, I realize, oh, it comes right past those snipers on the rooftop. Meaning somebody was shooting at the snipers and missing, and it goes flying. That's it. Those guys right there. And it just goes right down the rail. the back row of the bleachers. It's like, whoa, who was shooting? Well, we follow the line, and the line led to the woods. And I was embarrassed to say this on Brett's show. To say, it looks, I think you got a shooter in the tree. It sounds nuts. You were like, no, it doesn't sound nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. How could you have this straight line if it's not there?
Well, it just seemed like, to me, it's like, well, no, wait, come on, please. It's like I was hoping it was just a kid on the roof. I was really hoping it was just a 20-year-old, and this was, that was it. Not a conspiracy. Let's go back to COVID. Go back to like 7 and 9. Well, I know, but that's what I was kind of hoping. That's what it was, right? I was hoping it was simple. Let's wrap this thing up and let's get back to work on the H7 and 9 and the bird flu. No, that's not what happened. This leads to the trees. You said, wouldn't surprise me at all. And then Clay Martin, the sniper instructor, said, not only wouldn't it surprise me, he's like, that would be my first choice. Give me my ghillie suit and I'm going up the tree. You're never going to find me.
Right.
I'll have lunch up there. You're never going to find me. He's like, I'll bring
they do that.
box.
They sleep. When I was reading about all this sniper stuff, they said that like controlling the breathing and like getting there and waiting and everything, it's like all about that. It made me think, what is this guy doing? Running up to the roof 2 minutes before and start shooting? It just doesn't seem like the way this type of thing is done.
With the backpack, and he's running, and then what? He assembles the gun from the backpack and get the hell out of here. All right, so let's go to the next image in our little folder here. So that pointed to the back. Now this is where we're starting to get into the 3D model on the ballistics and how we lined everything up using photogrammetry. So we've been working on a 3D model kind of behind the scenes, and the 3D model has to kind of line up with precision because we're talking about a bullet that misses the president's eye by a quarter of an inch, right? And yet hits his ear. And in order to line everything up, we're looking for these 90-degree angles and such. And one of the things that Mr. Bill realized was that the podium kind of lines up with the edge of the stairs, and we've got a bunch of 90-degree angles that we can work with here. And that's where the president was standing when he was shot, was right behind the podium. Well, what you guys see is that if a bullet were to hit him in the ear, it doesn't really end up back in the corner of the bleachers where his red hat is right now. So in this photo, you see the president's MAGA hat and you see the kind of the red crane behind there. Well, back up in that corner is where we see the puff of smoke. All the way like behind his head. You can't even see the corner because it's all the way up in that left corner. See the lucky guy? See the lucky guy?
He is right here. There he is.
That's the lucky guy. That's it.
Talk about this guy for a second, because you had a really good picture of this guy with an injury.
We're coming. Yeah, well, we're going to come to that. So that's where the lucky guy is. Now, if the president, now zoom back out, if the president is standing at the podium and the bullet hits his ear, how does it then curve to the left and hit the railing? Unless it bounced off his skull, and that would have cracked his skull. So, the fact that it just hit the soft tissue. And we know that Doug Mills' photo is the round that hit his ear. We know his clock was wrong on the camera.
Wait. How do we know that? We don't even know that there's a real bullet in that photo. That could have been photoshopped by the New York Times.
Oh, no. Assuming it's a real bullet, we know the clock in the camera was wrong from the guy at Sony. So the guy at Sony who set up Doug Mills' camera got in touch with somebody. It was off, right? So assume the clock and the camera's off. So that sets that whole issue aside. Trump has yet to respond. He's yet to flinch. He's yet to bring his hand up. And his hand is already at his ear at the second round. So by the time we hear that second round, his hand is already up at his ear. Right. So that makes the round in the Doug Mills photo where Trump has not yet brought his hand up, that's the round that hit his ear. That's it. So the next round, if that photo had been shot number 2, Trump's hand would already be up, and shot number 3, he's already going down. He's already crouching.
I just question the entire photograph. I don't
well,
know.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah. But you're
I'm
right, it would
simply
be
saying
the first shot. And you know what? The timing
if
of
it's
his
legit.
hand, it could be. It's hard to know.
And we're going to look at that. We're going to look at the timing of his hand when we go to the patron only. I slowed it down to 10%. We're going to look at those first 3 shots. Which shot was the one that hits his ear? When does he respond to it? We'll look at that with the patrons. But let's go to this next image in our little folder here. Keep rolling. Aha. All right, so now we're getting into this 3D model and looking at these trajectories. And what you're going to see is that if a shot hits the president's ear, it can hit the corner of the railing. If a shot from the rooftop hits the corner of the railing, it misses the president by about 2 feet or something like that. And let's go to the next image. You'll see that in the next image. So we're using the wind now. There you go. So gravity. So the shot, if it were to hit the railing, the first shot, it would have missed the president's ear by about 18 inches. The shot that hits the president's ear ends up not going to the top corner of the railing. It ends up passing through the railing down and below the lucky guy, like down by his knees, or, like 2 rows down and lower.
I see. That's a little difficult to see. So one of them is going in front and one of them is going behind. I got it.
Right. So the green line would be if the shot from the rooftop hit the rail. That's the one that we see the puff of smoke. The green line doesn't hit the president's ear. The pink line is the one that does hit the president's ear. That's the Doug Mills photo, but that doesn't go to the top of the railing. That's the
good.
ballistic.
That's
right,
a good
so
simulation right there. I like that.
All right. So one of them would be, and now the green one, if you saw the green line.
Oh, wait a minute, John.
The
We're
lucky
way
guy
over
is
time
sitting
here.
there.
I wasn't
Oh my
looking at
God.
the clock.
Right.
See, I was so engrossed in the information, I forgot to remind everyone that we've got to go over to the sponsor-exclusive segment. If you're not already a sponsor, please check out subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. Sponsor John on those channels. You can also sponsor Crowdsource the Truth by going to odyssey.com/@CrowdsourceTheTruth. crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Thanks to everybody who sponsors the show. We would not be here if it wasn't for you guys. So if you're enjoying this information and you want us to keep working at it, please become a sponsor. We will be back in less than 5